This is yeah, Skye Perry. Let me find my notes here. Skye Perry and Peter Batty with SSP Innovations. And they're you're going to focus on, well, it's a big question, but we talk about the 4D digital twins, but that fourth V means you got to keep it up to date. So thank you. Looking forward to hearing about what your company has done in this area.
Thank you very much, Gavin. I appreciate that introduction and look forward to the roundtable and hearing more too. I think this is a very interesting topic, and especially I love the stuff Cognizant's doing and a lot of what we're seeing with the drone work throughout the industry. But to Gavin's point, how do you keep it up to date? We've really focused on the workflows. So we're here to talk about how to keep it up to date in near real time. Now, before we really jump into the topic itself, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Skye Perry. I'm the founder and CEO of SSP Innovations. And I've worked in, we are a GIS-based firm holistically. And I've worked in that area for just over 20 years and very excited to have been there around deploying GIS as well as our products on top of it, system integration, customization, and leading that area as a system integrator around the Esri platform. I'm being joined today. Peter's actually on vacation, but we do have a video segment from him that he pre-recorded for us. And Peter Batty is our Chief Research Officer. He joined us in April of this year. And he has worked in telecom and utility GIS for over 35 years, including time as the CTO of a number of our leading firms out there in the world, but SmartWorld, Intergraph, and IQGeo. And that's worth noting that he has joined us. We're an Esri Platinum partner. And if you're familiar, everybody mostly knows Esri out there. Esri has over 2,700 partners worldwide, and we're one of the sort of top 15 of those partners in that platinum network. And we're there to represent utilities and telecom. This is all we do every day. We've grown a whole lot. We're just shy of 400 employees today and doing a lot of exciting work. We're really excited today to share our work around capturing and maintaining geospatial data utilizing the digital twin. And we believe this is really representative of a trend that we're seeing a change in the industry, if you could say, in the coming decade. And I think we're hearing a lot of that today. There's a lot of broader technologies at play that we'll touch on here today, but that's what's really driving a lot of this change. You see a quick agenda there, but we'll go ahead and just jump right in. I've got plenty to cover in our short time today. So GIS data quality, where every utility and telecom, certainly utility, maintains a GIS. And the data quality is a significant challenge for really a number of reasons. It's inherently a challenge to create and maintain all of that information from our physical world into a register of your physical assets with, in our case, is the GIS. And the GIS, of course, feeds many of the other systems within a typical utility. Now, if we think back to when the data was entered into GIS way back, and it could have been a decade or two, sometimes longer ago, the variability in the base maps that were provided to utilities caused a lot of variation in the quality of that data that was entered. And, general challenges of how you keep that data up to date are probably well known. I'm assuming everybody kind of knows the challenge of keeping this complex data up to date within the back-end system, but we'll get into it a little bit more. The point being is if it's not up to date, the data quality really has significant impacts within our customers. Network reliability is an obvious one for the most part, but it's really in multiple respects. It could be fixing problems on the network. It could be finding the right predictive location on the network where a problem exists. All of that depends on having an accurate and up-to-date model. Customer service obviously tied into network reliability from the context of things like outages. But when you think about even new customer service requests, that's important too. We still have utility customers that send out crews when there's a new customer service request to go inspect the area and determine what needs to happen. But if that data was fully up to date in the back office, it could be done all digitally. Now, safety, that's an obvious one, a really important one to our customers, especially big in gas and electric. If we think about the recent disasters we've seen that are tied to utilities, the Camp Fire out on the West Coast or the Merrimack Valley gas explosion in the Northeast, both customers of ours, by the way, all related to the asset data being out of date and or not utilized correctly within the GIS. So this is really important and ties to lives, to homes, to everything else in that area. Now, time to market, a little bit heavier certainly on the telecom side, but when they're aggressively going after a market, and building out a new network within the field, they can't provision the equipment on their operational systems until it's typically entered in through an as-built process. And finally, the larger topic of digital transformation. This ties in obviously to the digital twin. And we're hearing about this all over our customers these days. And it's really a little bit larger of an issue. It's all about processes to be more digital, more efficient. And that all goes to having a truly accurate and up-to-date model. That's a prerequisite to any type of digital transformation within our customer base. And that leads us to kind of a prerequisite for what we're doing with digital twin. And that's the Esri utility network. And if you haven't heard about it, I won't go deep on this today, but it talks about the ability that we have now to capture a much deeper level of granularity within the GIS than we've had over the last several decades. This is an area that I've directed our firm really about 6 years to start investing into, and we've really led the industry around it over the last 6 years. But it's a brand new model, and the key aspects, which are all about digital twin, is that it allows that granular level of modeling, allows us that when we can capture that data in the field, that we can now accurately model it in the back office. A really quick and easy example is in this picture in the bottom right. And that's where in the old model, if you had this typical three-phase overhead transformer bank with three individual cans, three assets, it would have been modeled as a single generic point in the GIS. The new model, the utility network, allows you to model those three individual points. And why is that important? Well, it's important because as we're making more automated decisions in the back office, we need to know things like the secondary wiring, the downstream implications, which has implications around things like voltage. And that's really important to automated decision-making, customer service, et cetera. So this new model allows us to do it. Now we have to get that data from the field accurately. In gas, this would obviously be things like regulator stations. Back in transmission electric, you think of things like substations, right? All the granularity that has always typically been in AutoCAD, but now it's in a connected model within the GIS. And this is allowing us to do some really new, cool things within GIS, things like 3D modeling. We've traditionally not been able to model vertically stacked assets, and now we can do that, which is enabling 3D visualization. Driving towards fairly out-of-the-box schematic views. Think back to that substation, be able to see the schematic view of how power flows through it, or the inner workings of an entire gas pressure system, those type of areas. But if I sum it up in digital twin speak, it's really more realistic representation of real-world networks. Why do we need this? It's not just for the GIS and to make it better, but it's really about the business of a utility and the data they need to support the systems that operate the business of the utility each and every day. And we're seeing the granularity requirements going up in those systems, which is driving our need to have it modeled. And of course, then keeping it up to date. And there is the rub. Keeping that digital twin in sync with the physical world in near real time presents a major challenge to almost every single one of our customers today. And that leads us to what we call the Asbuilt Update Challenge. Now, this is taken from a recent event we attended where this was a poll that was put out. And it's pretty darn interesting. It's all about the backlog, the length of the backlog within the utility. You probably know what this is, but it's the time between when the as-built or the physical construction of the assets in the field is completed to when the data is actually entered into the GIS. Now, 85% of the attendees said it was at least a month before that data got entered. And if you can believe it, 53% said it was over 3 months before that data got entered. And I'm not terribly surprised because that's pretty consistent with most of the hundreds of customers we serve here today. And having an accurate geospatial data around network infrastructure, it's crucial information for reliably and safely delivering electricity, communications, gas, water, you name it. And it's becoming even more important as we try to do all of that network management in a smarter way in the future. So what's the root cause? Why is this? And I tell you, when I talk about this topic with folks outside our industry, they cannot believe that there are utilities that don't have data in for a month, and certainly not 3 months from the time it's constructed. But the fact is that the data capture that we need in that granular model, it's too complex and too time consuming for the people who install and maintain the equipment in the field. We've put solutions and better solutions out, and we have this working in some locations, but it's still too complex for many of the field crews to capture the level of data we need. So what happens? Well, we end up with a second crew or a second inspector that goes out who knows the data level that we need to get. But as soon as you have another person going into the field, the process becomes resource intensive, costly, and lengthy. And there is the problem. We need systems, and this drives the requirements, I should say, for where we're headed. And, we need systems that are easy enough for field workers to use. And, we've seen a lot of resistance historically to new technology being introduced to field workers, but we've had so much advancement in this area. And we use the term, you've heard the term crowdsourcing. This is used really outside of utilities a whole lot. And that's really getting those updates from the people who perform the work, where and when it happens. And we're now calling that field sourcing, sourcing the data directly from the field at the moment that the work or changes are occurring. But to truly make this successful, the solution needs to be fast, it needs to be simple and accurate. And to us, that sums it up into a word of automated. And that's where we've headed with our solutions. So there's the opportunity. Now, we've been in GIS a long time. We've built mobile applications. We have mobile product that many, many utilities use to do exactly this today. But we want to continue to innovate. And it's based on a lot of the new technology you're seeing out and around the consumer world that we're now beginning to bring into the utility world. I'll talk about some of these today, but we'll begin with computer vision, touch on machine learning, reality capture, augmented reality, and then a little bit on voice interaction. So let's jump into some of those. Now, there are various technologies being applied in other industries, and Tesla is a really interesting one that we follow quite closely. Now, this video is showing how the Tesla Autopilot system automatically recognizes and spatially locates things like stop signs, traffic signals, other cars, and it's doing it many, many times a second. You saw some of these same examples in Cognizance videos that we were just seeing in the last presentation. These applications are there and they can be done. And there's very strong parallels between capturing asset data within the utility and telecom worlds. And hopefully you're kind of starting to get where we're headed with this. Now, importantly, there's a lot that we have taken from Tesla's evolution through this process that is driving our approach in the utility world. Now, you didn't see them jump into the very first release of Tesla was an auto-driving car, that we know that that's where we're headed. What they've done, though, is to do this in a stepwise linear fashion. The first thing that Tesla did initially was to introduce pure autopilot, and we're seeing this in a lot of other cars now, but it allowed a car to drive in a lane, keep a specified distance between the car and the car in front of it, and to stay in the lane. Very, very small subset of a full driving car. Next thing they went to was introducing the navigate on autopilot, which is just allowing a car to change lanes, pass the car in front of it, and even take one exit from another exit onto a highway, but still it was only working on highways. The third piece they've introduced is called Auto Steer Plus. Now this works on windier roads. It's a relatively new thing, but it's a pretty impressive tactic. And finally, they've introduced a function called Smart Summon. Smart Summon allows a car to park itself and come back to the location to pick you back up. The point in all of this that we've taken away is that these pieces of the problem are carved off, and eventually they'll all be brought together to create a fully automated driving experience. And that's become the foundation of how we at SSP are approaching asset collection for utilities. We do eventually want it to be fully automated, and I'll get there in the presentation today, but we're starting with having the user guide the application and have the experience go through the user, but we're automating a number of important elements right off the bat that are truly game changers, we believe, even today. How are we doing it? Well, one important area is image recognition. This is really driven by very powerful machine learning-based image recognition. And you see this all over consumer apps today when you think about it. Facebook's an easy one. It knows who is in your photo, and when you're tagging people, it can predict it. Amazon Photos, which I use, Peter took the screenshots here. When he types in monkeys, it finds his snow monkey pictures. I was going to Mexico a couple of weeks ago, and I typed in passports and found all of my children's passports instantly returned. Now, I didn't train that model. It was already in there. But the point is, it's a model, and it's continually improving on itself for the machine learning aspect of recognizing images. Now, in our world, this translates to poles and cabinets, pedestals, switches. You get the idea. And the interesting part is that it's being driven by the larger consumer industry outside of utilities and telecom. So our challenge is to learn how we can utilize and harness that technology to solve utility and telecom problems. Next key area is augmented reality. I imagine my kids all did, maybe yours did too, but you're familiar with the popular game Pokemon Go that came out a few years ago, all the way down to things like IKEA, who's introduced the ability to see and visualize furniture where it doesn't exist, but within your actual augmented reality space of your apartment or your home. Now, there's some really obvious parallels about what they're doing in these applications and what we want to do with assets within utilities. Next area, reality capture. Some of this I could tell Cognizant's doing. You should know, if you follow, Esri has invested into this heavily. And when we talk from the mass end of reality capture, they're going after, they can capture a large scale area, maybe even an entire city to get a true as-built digital twin at that point in time. And that's incredibly powerful to us. Now, we see that with things like the Google Street View car. We see it with drones, with much other technology. But what we're seeing now is it's transitioning down to the level where we can use smartphones, and that's much more accessible to our end users today. We even have the LiDAR scanners available to us in the newest iPhones. Our goal is to harness that power to drive the reality capture specifically within a utility-based workflow. The final area I want to touch on, this is an area I had to go research a bit more when Peter first brought it to me, and it's the concept of the augmented reality cloud. If you Google this, you'll find plenty of information out there, but foundationally, the cloud is a technology, and the AR cloud specifically is a technology that aims to create immersive experiences by unifying the physical and digital worlds. Now, that should sound a lot like digital twin to you, and that drives a lot of what we're talking about here today. It's a 3D copy of the real world. But the important point is that there are other firms doing this. I'll bring up a quote in a second, but that they are providing their data and the services around that to others so we can access physical surroundings of the user to apply to our workflows. And that's what we're harnessing. There's a quote we took from a video we often use to explain the AR cloud. And it says that machine readable maps that tech giants and startups are currently spending billions of dollars to create. And that's important because others are investing in that area. We're able to consume the data and the services from them into our specific workflows. We're able to take advantage of that. Now, we expect this to become much more widely available in a few years, but we're beginning to take advantage of a lot of this even today. So that's a bit about the broader issue and the advancement that we're seeing in the world around these key technologies, a lot on the commercial side. My colleague Peter has recorded a video, though, now that's going to take us through how we're harnessing these technologies within utility and telecom to keep that digital twin up to date. Now, this is a new product called SSP Vision. It's smart. It's a smartphone app that can capture asset data in a highly automated way. Now, we're targeting phones, and I'm going to briefly stop sharing and make sure I've got the audio turned on so that you can hear them. Keep that going. Perfect. Make sure I get the right screen. Apologies. I think I got it now. So it's a new product called SSP Vision. Some of the audio, I do want you to hear it, but it's going to be a little windy in spots because it was actually recorded in the field. And that's one of the exciting things about it. But I'll let Peter take us through it here on the video side.
Thanks, Skye, and hi, everyone. I'm sorry I can't join you all live today. I'm pre-recording this session, but all being well, I'm going to be on vacation and off the grid as you're watching this. But I just wanted to briefly show you some aspects of the work I've been leading over the past 6 or 9 months or so on what we call the SSP Vision product, which is really aiming to take all of these exciting new technologies that Skye's just been explaining, things like machine learning, computer vision, and augmented reality, and looking at how we can apply those to really try and solve the Asbuilt update problem, which is key to keeping a digital twin up to date, as we've talked about. So I'll show you a couple of scenarios. This first one is for an electric company. We had some discussions with a local electric company about their Asbuilt process, and this shows a small example of capturing some Asbuilt update data at a new subdivision construction site. So this is, you can just see the general construction site here, so we want to be able to do Asbuilt capture for these electric cabinets. So I just tap, it can quickly recognise the manufacturer and the transformer number. And then if I come around the side here, scan this label, we also got the KVA up there, and we get the work order number and the serial number. Now let's say we'd like to add a cable, so we can start here, and then as we walk out here you can see it drawing the cable back to the transformer, and then we'll connect that here to this pedestal. Close that up, it shows it's 69 feet. Now we recognise the electric pedestal here, telecom pedestal here, and again electric pedestal here, telecom pedestal here. So it's nice and quick to capture all of that data. You know, if we walk back up here, and you can see the cable running there as we go. Oh, and I'll also capture the telecom pedestal, which I didn't get on the first go round. And then also we can confirm the data on this cabinet. If I come back and say information, it shows me that. So now I'll just save that and finish the job. And there we go. And here's that data we captured uploaded into GIS. Here we're viewing into an ArcGIS online. And so I can just click on something. I've just got simple default styles and so on here, but there's the electric cabinet we captured with the various attributes. We also automatically capture a photo of each piece of equipment as we capture it. There's a telecom pedestal and the cable and so on. So what we're doing here is basically capturing this data in a form that can just be directly pushed back to the GIS, with the real vision being able to capture the equipment as it's built in the field and push it back in real time. So there you saw how we're using computer vision and machine learning in a couple of different ways. One, to recognize feature types just by image analysis, and another is the ability to read text and in an intelligent way pull attributes out of that. And then alongside that, being able to accurately capture location using augmented reality combined with GPS. And the augmented reality gives you very accurate relative accuracy between the various components, the various assets that you're capturing. So I'll show you one more quick example, and this is just showing how we can capture even more detailed text information. So let me show you the example, which is capturing data from some electric meters. Okay, we're going to capture information about these 3 meters here. Just tap to confirm that location, and then we can look a little more closely and move around a little bit to capture information about those attributes. Capture the second one, and you can see it very quickly captured those things there. That plastic is a little bit clearer. One more, and again captures pretty much instantly there. So I can come back, can see the each of those 3 that we captured. If I tap information on any of them, it shows all of that information that we captured about each one. So super fast and easy to capture complex attributes. So there you saw the ability to capture large amounts of attributes extremely quickly. And it's also a nice illustration of how we're capturing data in 3D. You could see the heights there and get some idea of the accuracy. So that's just a flavour of some of the things we've been working on. We are using other technologies as well, like voice recognition. And we're really excited about the possibilities here for really creating something that is very significantly more automated than traditional field data capture solutions. So anyway, we're excited to share that with you, and I'll hand it back to Skye at this point.
So hopefully Peter's having an awesome vacation, but I hope you saw some of the important key things we saw there. And the one piece he really didn't touch on was the voice recognition, which is being used to update and or enter attributes that maybe we couldn't pull off of the asset itself. Now, when you think about it, and we do a lot of, again, we have lots of our own software that does field collection today in production at many utilities. And we've talked about the time savings around something like this. And those 3 meters shown that Peter just went through, he did within seconds. We estimate, it could be 12 to 15 minutes to capture all that data, including selecting all of those different attributes you'd be reading off of the actual face of the meter. So there's some significant changes here, and it's pretty exciting from what we're already moving into proof of concepts with a number of customers. I did want to summarize just a few of the key points here that we are seeing, that we saw within the video. The first was that automatically recognizing the features themselves through the machine learning and the attributes. using the barcodes, the QR codes, the text recognition. It's all machine learning based image recognition. And then we talked about the voice recognition briefly. Now, as we move forward, we want to combine these technologies even further in more powerful ways to automate this further. I think that's really important to know. Second, identifying the location through both GPS and augmented reality. Now, the augmented reality adds a lot of greater relative accuracy. The GPS is still used to find, we'll call it the course location, but the location of the overall placement of the AR cloud. But then, especially in that downtown area, we're using the AR cloud to get relative accuracy. And when combined with GPS, it gives you extremely accurate location-based data when you bring this back into the GIS. Also being used there for distance measurement, as you saw Peter walking through it. Now, one area that we're exploring in addition to the outside plant is working on inside plant, because we can greater model that with a lot of great accuracy using things like the AR cloud. You saw in the case of the cable on the first demo that Peter specified the feature type when needed. And that's important because the user, as I noted earlier, is still interacting with the application. It's not fully automated, but if the automatic recognition doesn't work, you can put that information in. We also see this being used for design scenarios. If you imagine going to the field to an empty lot and you're designing and placing, I want to put a transformer here, I want to put the service line around this tree to the actual meter, it changes the game as far as how that data could be collected in the field, brought back into a design scenario. And finally, you saw the linear features. Interestingly, here in Colorado, we have a law that you can't leave a trench open overnight. So in that case, obviously, Peter was drawing on top of the dirt. But if you imagine making it easy enough that the construction crew could just grab that data before that trench is filled in, very important. It has distance measurement, can also snap into the existing point data. So what do we see longer term? We're really taking a lesson from Tesla and that self-driving car concept. What you're seeing here today, even though they're powerful, are building blocks. And those are going to lead us to a fully automated approach where our goal would be to have a camera mounted perhaps on a hard hat or a body camera somewhere that's constantly capturing this data around them in the field. Why is that important? Because it limits the user interaction. And there may be some in the back office, but with the level of automation that we can bring, it will be a game changer as to getting, again, that data currency, taking it from months to maybe even better than days. It could be in the course of minutes or certainly hours to get that back in. And Peter showed it going back into an Esri GIS. But the other part that we've already developed at SSP is to take that from just simple features with all the data collected, fully building it into the digital twin that is the Esri utility network. So in summary, we see this as being a pretty dramatic change in how we create and how we maintain utility and telecom asset data. We're working at SSP to lead this change, and we're partnering directly with our customers to advance the industry as a whole. Data has always been and always will be one of the biggest challenges in our business. And these new technologies will allow us to completely streamline how we improve that data in the future. And with that, I know we're just about at time, but I want to turn it back over to Gavin to see if there's any questions along the way.